Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dang Sheng. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Chinese Defense Minister Li Shangfu is currently facing scrutiny, with discussions on this matter taking place in both domestic and international media. Over the past weekend, international mainstream media once again turned their attention to China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning, who confirmed Li Shangfu's situation in her distinctive manner. On Friday, September 15th, during a press conference at China's Foreign Ministry, an Agence France-Presse journalist raised two questions. Firstly, why was Li Shangfu absent from the meeting in Vietnam the week before? Secondly, is he genuinely under investigation? What was Mao Ning's response? She stated, "I'm not aware of the situation you mentioned." Following this, a Reuters reporter asked a follow-up question. Could you provide information about Li Shangfu's current location? Mao Ning responded, I have already addressed your second question. This interaction became a significant topic of conversation in international media over the past weekend. Typically, if a regular state councillor or China's defense minister were questioned by foreign media about whether the defense minister is under investigation, China's foreign ministry spokesperson would vehemently deny any such claims, labeling them as groundless and malicious attacks. This response would likely result in rebukes and criticism of the journalist asking the question. However, in a departure from this norm, similar to what happened when former Foreign Minister Qin Gang faced issues not long ago, Mao Ning's response this time took a different turn. Initially, she cited health issues as a possible reason with Qin Gang, but later she refused to respond, claiming she was unfamiliar with the matter and directing people to check the Foreign Ministry's website for information. She began to evade the question. When pressed about the Li Shangfu situation this time, Mao Ning chose to avoid providing any explanation, refraining from mentioning health reasons as well. Notably, she refrained from launching any defensive or critical statements. Consequently, many believe that based on Mao Ning's demeanor, this can be seen as a confirmation that Li Shangfu is indeed under investigation and has been suspended from his duties. Here are my takeaways. I believe Xi Jinping has found himself in a precarious situation. Why do I think so? Firstly, in the past 2 months, we've witnessed the successive removal of two crucial cabinet members, one serving as foreign minister and the other as defense minister. This development points to significant issues within Xi Jinping's team-building efforts. Less than a year has passed since the 20th National Congress of the CCP, during which Xi Jinping personally conducted interviews with over 3,000 individuals, meticulously selecting and evaluating them. Yet, the outcome is that two key cabinet members now face serious legal suspicions. This situation has led to a highly unfavorable public perception of Chairman Xi. Because in today's China, Xi Jinping has consolidated control over virtually every aspect of governance. Paradoxically, this extensive control has resulted in a notable degree of political instability. The composition of the Communist Party of China's leadership team has become increasingly volatile. Xi Jinping's sole leadership style, despite his overreaching authority, appears less stable than the previous era of collective leadership. Just as his 5-year term has begun, both the foreign minister and the defense minister have been removed from their positions, individuals whom Xi Jinping himself handpicked for their roles. On one hand, Xi Jinping exercises supreme authority and makes all key decisions. On the other hand, there is a continuous purging of cabinet members. This system seems to have inherent flaws and is susceptible to issues. From an external perspective, it appears to be a somewhat impulsive and hasty form of political decision-making. So, could it be argued that Xi Jinping is intentionally creating difficulties for himself? When a decision made by him goes wrong and it goes so rather swiftly, it doesn't affect just one decision, but rather a whole series of decisions that have gone off track. Is this Xi Jinping inadvertently setting up challenges for himself? Secondly, even before Li Shangfu was appointed as the defense minister, he had faced sanctions from the US government back in 2018. The reason for these sanctions was his involvement in transactions with individuals linked to the Russian intelligence agency, specifically in arms trading. It's worth noting that these sanctions had already tarnished Li Shangfu's reputation when he assumed the role of defense minister. This situation had the potential to negatively impact the military exchanges between China and the United States. Nevertheless, Xi Jinping pressed forward, adopting a stance that seemed to say, the more the US sanctions, the more I will utilize him. You criticize him and I will praise him. In the first half of this year, one of the most significant disputes between China and the United States, or perhaps the most challenging issue that Xi Jinping presented to the United States, revolved around the demand to lift sanctions on his trusted ally, Li Shangfu. Xi Jinping made it clear that unless these sanctions were revoked, there would be no dialogue and the military communication between China and the United States would be interrupted. While the United States wanted to maintain sanctions and held a negative view of Li Shangfu, Xi Jinping insisted that Li Shangfu was a key figure for him and demanded the sanctions be lifted. However, even before the United States had a chance to remove the sanctions on Li Shangfu, Xi Jinping went ahead and imposed his own sanctions on him. This situation raises questions about whether the United States had accurately assessed individuals or if Xi Jinping had a better understanding of the situation. After months of standoff with the United States over Li Shangfu, the final outcome revealed that Xi Jinping himself concluded that Li Shangfu was not suitable for the role. This entire episode carries a sense of drama and irony. Thirdly, corruption remains a deeply entrenched issue within the Chinese military, making it a matter of political judgment for Xi Jinping to decide whom to target for investigation and whom to spare. Every year, investigations into military corruption uncover major cases. In recent months, the Equipment Development Department of the People's Liberation Army issued a directive to retroactively investigate misconduct, with the probe extending back to October 2017. They have urged the collection of extensive information and tips related to suspected irregularities in the procurement process. The directive outlines 8 categories of irregularities, including proactive disclosure of classified information, unfair handling of matters, and a lack of oversight. Fourthly, Xi Jinping's internal purges within the People's Liberation Army specifically target individuals accused of corruption. Does this imply that Xi vehemently opposes corruption within the military? No. An illustrative example is the recent retrospective investigation into the PLA's General Equipment Department, stretching back to October 2017. Why was there no investigation before that date? The reason is that before October 2017, the minister of the PLA Equipment Development Department was Zhang Youxia, a close and long-standing friend of Xi Jinping with whom he shared a deep personal connection, having grown up together. This illustrates that Xi Jinping's concerns is not solely about whether someone is corrupt, it's about who is involved in corruption. If Zhang Youxia was implicated in corrupt activities, it didn't matter much because he was Xi's close companion. In Xi's perspective, he regarded the nation and its resources as his own, so he wasn't greatly bothered if his friend took a small share. However, in the case of Li Shangfu, who wasn't a friend but rather a subordinate, his involvement in corruption without providing Xi with a share or offering a meager portion was deemed unacceptable. Another instance to consider is Li Zhanshu, a close associate of Xi Jinping. There have been reports in Hong Kong media and foreign outlets regarding corruption within Li Zhanshu's family. Yet, Xi Jinping has chosen to overlook these allegations and shield him from the repercussions of his corruption. When it comes to corruption within Xi Jinping's inner circle, it's not merely about personal indulgence, it's about sharing the gains with Xi Jinping, who aims for the lion's share. Consequently, Xi Jinping doesn't inherently abhor corruption. His concerns primarily lies in who is involved in corrupt practices and whether those actions are advantageous to him. If Xi Jinping's own family can secure a substantial portion, or if you are not one of Xi's trusted confidants and you engage in corruption, then Xi Jinping won't be pleased. Therefore, Xi Jinping's approach to corruption itself seems quite lenient. It primarily depends on who is implicated and the manner in which it benefits him. Fifthly, to showcase his leadership and strength, Xi Jinping frequently employs a phrase: "Those who have not seized since the 18th National Congress should face appropriate consequences." Implicitly, he conveys the idea that after the 18th National Congress under his leadership, China entered a new era, the Xi Jinping era. He implies that the previous corruption was a result of the ineffectiveness of leaders like Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, and Hu Jintao. However, since the 18th National Congress, during my tenure, those who continue engaging in corrupt activities are causing something exceptional, something extraordinarily peculiar and unprecedented. However, since the 18th National Congress, a significant number of members within the Central Military Commission have faced legal repercussions. While figures like Guo Boxiong may have been promoted by Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao, or even Deng Xiaoping, the likes of Fang Fenghui, Li Shangfu, and Qin Gang were personally selected by Xi Jinping. Since the 18th National Congress, numerous members from Xi's inner circle have progressively fallen from grace. Therefore, if an individual persists in corrupt activities since the 18th National Congress or seeks to underscore Xi's authority post-18th National Congress and emphasize the exceptional qualities of Xi Jinping's close associates, stressing their commitment to avoiding corruption, this slogan, "Those who haven't seized since the 18th National Congress," suggests that Xi Jinping might have overestimated his own influence and capabilities. Based on the above analysis, we can conclude that Xi Jinping is not fundamentally different from his predecessors like Hu Jintao in terms of his abilities and influences. However, his tendency to overestimate his own authority and capabilities has led him to make public declarations that there were no corrupt officials after the 18th National Congress. In doing so, he has created numerous challenges for himself, and he has no one to blame but himself for his misfortune. Thank you for watching. Please have a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.